A man without a purpose. Every morning I woke up at exactly the same time. 7 o'clock. The alarm rang loudly. I turned it off, and then I just lay in bed staring at the ceiling. After a while, I got up. Not because I wanted to. I simply had no other choice. I went to the kitchen, made myself some coffee, and looked out the window. Outside, there was a yard, gray ground, old trees, and people walking somewhere quickly with bags and phones in their hands. They all had places to go and things to do. But I just stood there, drank my coffee slowly, and did not know where I was supposed to go. I had a job, a simple and unremarkable one, an office, a computer, stacks of papers. I came in every day, did what people told me to do, and then went home. Nobody was ever angry with me, but nobody ever said good job either. I was just a person sitting quietly in a chair, small and unimportant. In the evening, I sat on the sofa and turned on the TV. I watched anything that was on news, shows, advertisements, because it did not really matter. I just did not want to sit in silence. Silence was the worst thing of all, because in silence I started to think, and thinking was not good for me. Because I did not know why I was alive. Not in a painful or dramatic way, just empty like a room with no furniture at all. 4 walls, a floor, a ceiling, but nothing inside. I lived, I ate, I slept, I worked, and then I slept again. Every single day was the same as the one before. Friends called sometimes and asked, "How are you?" I always said, "Fine." They said, "Good." And that was the end of the conversation. Nobody ever asked anything more, and honestly, I did not want them to. This went on for many years, 5, maybe 7. I stopped counting. One evening, I was riding the subway home, just like any other day. People stood all around me. Someone was reading, someone was listening to music, and I just stared at the dark window, watching the tunnel go by. The only thing I could see in the glass was my own reflection. I looked at myself for a long time, and I did not recognize that person. When had I become like this? Tired eyes, an empty expression, the corners of my mouth pulled down. I did not look sad. Exactly, I looked like nothing at all, like a person who was not really there. At the next stop, an old man came in and sat down beside me. He was holding a small clay pot with a flower growing in it, something green and simple, with tiny white petals, and he held it carefully with both hands, as though it were something precious and fragile. I asked him what it was. He looked up and smiled, and lines spread warmly around his eyes. He said it was jasmine, that he had grown it himself, and that he was bringing it to his daughter for her birthday. I nodded and almost looked away, but he kept talking. He told me that he had been growing flowers for 30 years, that he had started after losing his job, thinking it would only be for a short time. But then, slowly, he understood this was truly his. Every morning he got up and walked to his plants, because they were waiting for him. They needed water, light, and care. And he, it turned out, needed all of that too. He paused for a moment and gently touched one of the leaves with the tip of his finger. Then he said quietly, "You know, a person without a purpose is like a river with no banks. It flows in any direction it wants, but it never knows where it is going." The train slowed and came to a stop. The old man stood up carefully, held the pot close to his chest, gave me a small nod, and walked out through the doors. The doors closed, and I was alone again. A river with no banks. Those words stayed with me for the whole rest of the ride. I was no longer looking out the window. I was sitting still and thinking. That night, I could not sleep at all. I lay in the dark and thought about the old man, about his flower, and especially about the way he had held it so carefully with such quiet love. He knew exactly why he got up in the morning. He had something that was his own, something small but completely real. And what did I have? I tried to remember if I had ever truly loved something. A long time ago, when I was a child, I used to draw constantly, with pencils, with paint, with anything I could find. I drew people, houses, whole imaginary cities. My mother told me I had talent, and my teacher said to keep going. But then, adult life arrived, with its big decisions, a serious job, a stable income, and the pencils quietly disappeared into the past. I got up, went to the kitchen, drank a glass of water, and sat down at the table. There was only one question turning slowly in my mind. When was the last time I had done something simply because I wanted to? Not because I had to, not because everyone else does it just because I genuinely wanted to. I could not remember a single time. And that was frightening, not in a loud, dramatic way, not with tears, but quietly frightening, like suddenly realizing you have been walking in the wrong direction for a very long time without ever noticing. I sat at that table until morning, thinking and remembering and asking myself questions I had never thought to ask before. Who am I? What actually matters to me? What makes me feel alive? Simple questions, but I had no answers because I had never once stopped to ask them. In the morning, I did not go to work, which had not happened in many, many years. I called and said I was sick, and that was almost true, just not the ordinary kind of sick. I got dressed and went outside into the cool morning air. I could smell wet ground and fresh bread drifting from a bakery somewhere nearby. The sky was gray, but had a certain brightness to it, and I walked with no destination, no plan, just walked. I turned into a small shop that sold pens and notebooks and other paper things. I stopped in front of a shelf of pencils, picked one up and held it in my hand. My fingers remembered immediately what it felt like. I bought a set of pencils and a thick notebook with clean white pages. Back home, I sat at the table and stared at the first empty page for a long time. Then I picked up a pencil and began to draw. At first, it went badly. My hands would not cooperate. The lines came out crooked, the shapes looked all wrong, and I felt genuinely frustrated. I wanted to stop and put everything away. But I did not stop. I drew for 1 hour, then 2, then 3, forgetting completely about food, about my phone, about everything outside the table. When it grew dark, I switched on a lamp and kept going. When I finally put the pencil down, it was close to midnight, and on the table in front of me lay about 20 pages, not beautiful, not perfect, but somehow alive. And for the first time in longer than I could remember, I felt something warm and quiet somewhere inside me. Not quite happiness. Not yet. But something very close to it.